Welcome back to the Tracy Take. I'm Tyler here with my brother Ryan, and today we are going to be breaking down the Tampa Bay Buccaneers schedule and giving our absolute floor and absolute ceiling for the Buccaneers in the 2024 season. I'm going to break all that down here in a second, but before we get into it, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tackle that bell to get notified when new videos come out. We have videos coming out every Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, and once when the season starts, we're going to have weekly prediction videos for all of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers games that you're not going to want to miss. So subscribe to the channel and ring that bell to get notified when new videos come out. So before we break down the schedule here, let's quickly just kind of recap some of the areas that the Buccaneers improved on this offseason. And to me, when I look at it, just kind of reviewing their free agent signings and looking at their drafts, their draft picks as well. Also, then too, kind of including the people that left. I think they improved in the two areas that are probably their biggest weakness, in my opinion, and that would be the offensive line, specifically on the interior of the offensive line, and in the secondary as well. Adding Graham Barton with their draft pick, with the first overall pick, he's going to be sliding at center there. Adding in Ben Bredesen as well. Already, I think, improved. And they have a really young offensive line outside of that. Tristan Wirfs, that's enough said. I mean, one of the best tackles in the league. Cody Muck, I think, improved a lot in his rookie year. And Luke Gedeke as well. I really like. For all non-Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans, I'm sure you haven't seen this, but go listen to Luke Gedeke mic'd up on the field. I don't know, Ryan, have you heard that?
I have not.
He is hilarious. He cracks me up. I see those little YouTube shorts. So go check out those videos. But then particularly, Ryan, and this is where, too, you get to see two of their – you got to see a lot of these two new free agents. But adding the secondary, Jordan Whitehead and Bryce Hall as well, coming over from the Jets. I think big improvement overall in the secondary, in my opinion. They also then did add Taveri Thomas as well. So I think they improved a lot in those two categories, which I really think was their two weaknesses overall going into the season. Do you agree with that? Were there some other areas you thought that they improved?
Yeah, and I did feel like last year their offensive line got better as the season went on. So adding Graham Barton there, I think, is going to definitely shore up that center spot and hopefully give them more consistent play earlier on in the season. One of the biggest things, too, that I think it's going to do, they were 32nd in rushing offense. They were the worst rushing offense in the league. I do like Rachaad White. I think he's a pretty good back. And so I think going and solidifying that from the beginning, I think should hopefully help their rushing numbers. But other than that, going the secondary, they did, I believe they trade Carlton Davis. With that pick, they got Tyke Smith in the third round. So I like that fit as well, addressing that secondary. And hopefully, all in all, they can just be better on defense. They did move on from some guys in the front seven as well. Devin White, Shaq Barrett, both of those guys left in free agency. And try to see, I believe that was it. And so hopefully, those are the main guys. But hopefully that pass rush can get back to what it was a couple seasons ago. That can also help cover up some of the issues in the secondary. And all in all, I think this defense should hopefully be improved overall.
Yeah. No, in general, though, this is, as the Falcons fan, if you couldn't tell, definitely worried the most about the Buccaneers when it comes to the division rivalry, because I think on paper the Falcons might have more explosive capabilities, but I think y'all's baseline is going to be much more consistent. And I think that's kind of what the main theme is for me when looking at their schedule, is when we talk about like these first 6 weeks here. So week 1 hosting Washington, week 2 at Detroit, rematch of the playoffs. Week 3 hosting Denver, week 4 hosting Philly, another rematch of the playoffs. And then at Atlanta for Thursday Night Football, and then at New Orleans as well in week 6. And I would say a favorable early start. They do have a tough game at Detroit. I think that's going to be a loss. I mean, not that they can't win it still early on in the season, but I'm probably going to be picking Detroit in that game. But other than that, though, then all winnable games. I mean, going to be tough to end that stretch with 2 division games on the road, especially Thursday Night Football against Atlanta. But Washington is definitely winnable. It's going to be Jaden Daniels' first game. Denver, who knows what's going on over there? I think they're waiting for their first overall pick come the 2025 draft. Philly, last time we saw both these teams play, I mean, Philly made Tampa Bay look like an absolute Super Bowl contender. They made Baker Mayfield look like Tom Brady, and so I have to see if Philly has adjusted or not. Then at Atlanta and at New Orleans, those are division games. It's going to be very interesting to see how they pan out. I will say, as a maximum ceiling, I do think it's possible they go 5-1 in this stretch, but it is also a fairly easy stretch. I think, maybe 2-4, but I still feel like they're going to come out 3-3 in this stretch. I feel like that's the floor. kind of with these 6
Yeah,
games.
yeah, 500.
Yeah,
Yeah,
500.
to me, I think that's the floor is 3-3. I agree, 5-1. They have a chance in all of these games. I do agree Detroit is more than likely going to be a loss, but they have some pretty good tune-up games. I think the fact that at Atlanta in Week 5 is on Thursday Night Football probably benefits them a little bit more. That'll be the first time the Falcons are playing on a short week with this new regime, and so I think that'll be interesting to see. And then at New Orleans, it's always tough to play in the Superdome. So
Yeah,
let's get into the second or the
the next
yeah
wave of games. Yeah, yeah,
the second group of 6 games. So Baltimore Monday Night Football. Yeah, uh, that's a pretty tough game. They have Atlanta again, this time at home, at Kansas City. They host San Francisco in Week 10. They have a Week 11 bye, and then at the New York Giants in Week 12 there. So pretty tough stretch of games. 3 true Super Bowl contenders. The Falcons, I believe, are a team that could potentially develop into a Super Bowl contender if all of the moves that they made this offseason go well. Probably shouldn't be saying that in a Bucs video, but I do think the Falcons are in that contention if the moves they made work out well. They do have the bye and then the Giants in Week 12, so a good end to this really tough section. But they did win the division last year, so they are going to have a bit of a tougher matchup, a few tougher matchups than some of the other teams.
yeah. And this is going to be, I think, the theme. And I think we can agree. I have Giants as a win. I think Atlanta could be a toss up. And so, but when I look at that, and this is the thing with Tampa Bay, and I think the same with the Falcons. Like as a Falcons fan, I'll disagree with you. I think maybe fringe Super Bowl, but probably not really. Probably no much more than the Buccaneers. I'll say that. And I think that's going to be the issue with both these teams is they're going to be above average, but when they play teams like Baltimore, Kansas City, San Francisco, it's just another echelon of teams, and I think they're going to lose those 3 games. So I say ceiling, honestly, during this stretch is going to be 2-3, but I think floor is going to be 1-4 during this 6-week stretch, in my opinion, just because it's such a tough string of games. But they do get a little bit of a break in the final 6 games. Week 13 at Carolina, Week 14 hosting Las Vegas, Week 15 at Los Angeles, Week 16 at Dallas, then hosting Carolina, and then hosting New Orleans to end out the season. I think this is just probably an average end to the season. A couple of easy games there. You do get to play Carolina twice, which is going to be good. You do get to play the Chargers and the Raiders. But both those teams, I think, have some potential, especially the Raiders, I think, to be better than expected going into the season. I think worst case scenario, 2-4, best case scenario, 4-2 during that stretch. And Dallas as well, though, we'll have to kind of go and see because they're going to be regrouping after a lot of people have left. But I just think during that stretch, if they're not doing well, I could see them winning 2 games, but then if they're doing well, I could see 4-2. And maybe do you think 5-1 is respectable?
I could see 5-1. I think that would be really, really good because I do think, unlike that first stretch where you have 3 teams where they will win, like Washington, Denver, and Philly, or not, sorry, 2 teams where like they definitely will win, and Washington and Denver. Philly's a toss up, but I do think they might win that game also. Yeah. You have 2 division games against Carolina. You have a third against New Orleans. Those are always toss-ups. Las Vegas and the Chargers will be competing for playoff spots as well. And then New Orleans is kind of in that cycle of mediocrity that where they're just like they could beat anybody, but they're not going to blow anybody away. But again, I just think Dallas is the only one. Dallas is by far the toughest matchup. And even that game I look at and I'm like, it's kind of iffy on like if Dallas can really, if I'm confident saying Dallas is going to pull it out.
Yeah. So I think that's, let's agree to that. I think 5-1 good ceiling in the stretch. And so kind of walking through that and just doing the math based on kind of what we agreed on. It seems like the floor is going to be 6-11, and that's like worst case scenario. If the team doesn't pan out, if they go through injury or if they're not able to improve on the running game, it's still kind of the same team as it was last year, and teams are able to figure out how to manage this offense and able to stymie this defense. But if Mike Evans then still keeps – if Mike Evans and Baker Mayfield relationship keeps on improving just like how we expect it to be, the running game can't really get much worse. And so if they improve on that, they made the right moves in the secondary and the offensive line keeps improving. I do think 12-5 is realistic. I think that's ceiling. I think maybe 11-6 and 10-7 is probably more realistic. 12-5 is possible, but like on the lighter end of the bell curve of all possibilities. But I think it is possible. I think it's out there, especially too if they can somehow manage that middle stretch where they go Baltimore, KC, San Francisco, and Atlanta in there as well. They can manage that stretch. Then it's possible. I think 12-5 is the maximum ceiling, while 6-11. I mean, I think that would just be an absolute things hit the fan. We'll keep it family friendly for that take, and so and just it's a horrible season.
Yeah, if they go 6-11, this schedule is very favorable. I think if they go 6-11, heads will roll at the end of the year.
Yeah,
so,
and you're right. And honestly, too, even saying that, 6-11, I like maybe 7-10. So I feel like 6-11 might be too hard.
Yeah,
I think actually 7-10 might be more fair.
Yeah, I would say 7-10 might be a little more fair. I mean, you could talk me into like if they lose all of their coin flip games and whatnot, then maybe they could end up at 6-11. But I think 7-10, 8-9 is probably like the floor of this team. Because you got to think they have a lot of experienced veterans on this offense, especially at the wide receiver position. This defense still was one of the best against the run last year, I believe. They were the fifth in rushing. They had 48 sacks. This secondary just really struggled last year on the defensive side of the ball. So like that was one of the things like with this team was like they have a good foundation. It's just can they continue to improve and continue to build? And we'll see. They made some good moves this offseason. So
yeah. They're going to be fun to watch. As a Falcons fan, I'm worried about them when it comes to winning the division. And so there are going to be some great games. I mean, because it is neat watching Baker Mayfield and just the heart that he puts into each game and just the way he fights and the energy that he brings to the team.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and wrap up this video here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on what you think of the Bucs in 2024. Do you think they're going to be better than they were last year? Do you think they're going to be worse than they were last year? Let us know. And other than that, we will see you guys next time.